So Baldar and Mira and them walk up to confront them at the gates of the castle or whatever, and Mara and Erlich walk out in their like robes, clearly like under the influence of Selma.
Enthralled, yeah.
And I love Baldar's line here, which there are actually quite a few of these lines, which I think are just incredible, where he yells, "By the fangs of Grugner, they are bewitched!"
By the fangs of Grugner, they are bewitched.
Hello and welcome back to the 210th episode Good Bad or Bad Show Watch Terrible Movies and tell you if you should too. I'm your host, Mr. Brian Chilligo, joining as always the other host, Mr. Colin Kyle. Hey. Second episode of 2010, also 2010. What?
2025.
2025. I don't know why I said 2010. 2025. Also, not a fan recommendation, but I think people will.
I wonder
it.
why Brian chose to do this movie.
Look, Kyle! I like fantasy properties, all right? I like a good sword and sorcerer fantasy property. The fact that there's just nothing but boobs in it is just a happy coincidence.
I'm sure that
it's a happy coincidence.
Makes sense that a lot of these movies, especially this kind of schlock Brian would want to do, just happen to have Playmate models in it.
Look, Kyle. So, the movie we're talking about today is 1982's Sorceress.
Innocent twins are given the secrets of sorcery and the martial arts to defend their lusty beauty. They seek revenge against the sorcerer and discover one must die.
No sorceresses.
There's no sorceress in there, and
I would say what's her name? Maybe the bad lady who dies, but. Yeah, our main character's not sorceress. No. It's not at all. I actually looked this up. It's on the Wikipedia article. The movie was originally titled like something to do about like barbarian women or something like that, which makes a little more sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Then supposedly, I think Roger Corman was involved as a producer or something on this, and pulled a bunch of college students about names, and they said that Sorceress was like a much cooler name, and so they just went with that, even though it doesn't really remotely apply to anything that's in the movie. But yes, the film is Sorceress, a 1982 film. As you mentioned, stars twin sister playmates.
Yes.
Which I didn't know that when I picked the movie, Kyle. I picked the movie because I scrubbed through the trailer and I saw the crazy spell effects and stuff at the end of the movie where the guy's shooting green lightning out of his fingers. Yes. And I was like, that looks awesome. And then it just so happens, Kyle, that the two main characters are also Playboy playmates, all right? It's not...
You don't notice something different? Like that?
Like this? Well, yes. I guess we never thought much about it.
Not my fault!
That sounded like a gas leak. I sounded like I had a gas leak there. Good Lord. All right. Ryan, you are defended.
Anyways, so the film opens up with some A+ fantasy music on the opening credits, and the music in this was like, I was like, the music in this is kind of great. Found out later that I don't think it was made for this movie.
No.
Because in the credits on IMDb, James Horner is credited, who you've heard of. He did like Avatar, Titanic. Like, he is
okay. That name sounded familiar.
Very, very famous composer. But it said James Horner, and then in parentheses on thing, it says like Battle of the Space something. I think this is a score from a different movie.
Yes.
that they just dropped into this movie.
So let's take some fantasy space opera and stick that into our medieval sword and board.
It's very John Williams-y, like Star Wars-y at times. But it's a pretty good score.
That's like right up there for, what was it, Taffin, that had Hans Zimmer as the...
Oh, right, didn't it? Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. It was like that was like he actually scored that film though.
Yeah.
And not like a different film
It's so weird having these like in such like high regard kind of composers
just like show up in these
work on these like super early projects in their career.
It's super fascinating because even the other movie that this score was originally from looked like garbage. It looked like a really like low budget like
Nice.
ice pirates like space movie kind of thing.
Ruthless invaders, a defenseless planet. Battle beyond the stars.
So I love modern schlock. I love a good shot on a Sony Handycam by two people in 2012. Like I love those kind of schlock movies. They are my bread and butter on this show. But
this one's not that. This one's legit.
And I also really appreciate a really because this is the kind of movie that literally could not exist anymore. Kyle, this movie cannot exist because the budget for this movie, I don't want to say it was a lot, but it was enough. Like
it was, you can clearly tell, and they probably didn't make their money back with this.
No, probably not. But yeah, because like it's lit like a real movie, it's shot like a real movie.
You can tell sets were built.
There's big expansive sets. There's like everything shot on location or relatively location, like actual sets and stuff like that.
The costumes aren't abysmally horrible.
No, a lot of them are actually kind of cool. Some of them are like really mediocre, but other ones are better. Like you could tell the costume budget was everywhere. Yep. But the opening and then like the first example of that, the opening scene of this. It's shot at night. We're actually shooting at night. They got like fog machine. There's like the ground is covered in fog. There's lights pouring through the trees. Guys riding horses, like actual horses, and holding torches.
Clearly had a budget, and it had people who knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, how in the hell did you sell this idea?
Well, I know how they sold it, Kyle, because more of these movies should exist. The thing I want to come and say. One, this movie's great. It's not great. It's good. I think this movie's pretty good. It's also, we'll get to it at the end, but it's very watchable. But more than that, this kind of movie, there needs to be more of these movies. Not necessarily the casting playmates like sex, like ogling boobs the whole time.
I was about ready to say.
But this movie feels very much in the vein of something like maybe The Mummy or something.
Goodbye, Benny.
It's a mid-budget like fantasy comedy action adventure.
You know what it is? Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Starring Roddy Piper as Sam.
Turn it off!
You are one weird dude. Sandal Bergman as Nurse Spangle. Wired to blow. Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Yes, but like slightly
more competent.
Yeah, slightly more competent. And the lore in this actually feels kind of good. Like when they're talking about the backstories, like so many times in these movies, when they talk about like the lore and the gods and the backstory, I'm just like, oh, fucking who cares?
I don't even have a clue what's going on.
But in this one, it all kind of works, and I was able to kind of figure out what the universe was doing. Again, I was just impressed overall. But what's not impressive is the ADR, which we'll get to, but like the entire film is ADR'd.
Dragon, Butcher, the gods will avenge this.
Oh, my beloved, even the gods will do as I command.
The ADR is not good, but opening scene, lady is sitting there by the fire with some other lady. Some dudes roll up on horses, including Tragon, who is the evil sorcerer. He's our villain.
Yes.
Dragon has found us, hurry!
The House of Prana is not far. If you run now, we could perhaps hold them long enough.
And they have this lady, they have a baby.
He's our Count Doom, because this very much is a lot of Conan.
Oh, really? I actually haven't seen Conan, so I don't know the plot of Conan, but it doesn't surprise me. But he shows up, he's Tragon, he's like the evil sorcerer. His men kill this old lady who I assume is maybe like the caretaker mom of the woman. But she's holding a baby. They kill her, and then they take the baby, and Tragon explains that he needs to sacrifice his firstborn to Calgira, which is like their god or whatever.
Yes.
Calgaro will be pleased.
No, Tragon, don't kill my baby.
I have promised my firstborn to Calgara.
And then Calgira will give him infinite power or whatever. But he finds out. He's like, I got the baby, ha ha ha. But then his wife, the woman who's the mother of these babies, who was his concubine or whatever, is like, ha ha, surprise, there's a second baby.
By Honora, there are two.
And so he's like, well, which one's the firstborn? And she's like, I won't fucking tell you. Fuck you.
You have to know, don't you? Because if you're wrong...
Don't play with me, woman. I have no time for that. Which is it? Which?
And so he kills her with the Talon. they pull out this giant claw thing with blades on the end and like I think like disembowel her. I don't even know. But he kills her. But just as he's killing her, Krona shows up. We're introduced to Krona,
The monk dude,
the
right?
good wizard guy. Yeah.
Krona.
He's like our Gandalf, and Tragon is our Saruman or Sauron or whatever you want to. Yeah, but Krona shows up, and he's like a monk who like also can do magic, and he does all kinds of awesome. He's like catching spears out of
and throwing
midair.
them back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kill him!
He just murders everybody. Also, I loved the evil soldiers' bird masks. I thought they were super
They got
cool.
like plague masks going on.
Yeah, it's super fun. So anyways, he kills all the soldiers and he's talking to Tragon. He's like, so which of your 3 lives are we on now, Tragon? Is this your first or is it your last? And there's all this implied history and backstory between them, which I think actually kind of works because you're like, ooh, they got this backstory that we don't know about.
Tell me, Tragon, which of your 3 lives am I taking now? Only your first? Or is it the last, finally?
You're overconfident, my old friend.
So then the guy's like, well, no matter what you do, I will come back in 1,000 years, or I will be back or whatever. And he gets stabbed.
Yes.
The lady who he was killing, the mother of these babies, she stabs him with a spear right through the chest. And as he's falling over, he's like, I'll be back.
Wee.
Thumb up into lava as I die.
Only my first, Krona. When the moon is in the house of the dragon once more, I come again.
Yeah. So he's dead, but he promises to come back. He dies in a flash of amazing green laser light because this is 1982 or whatever. But he promises to return. And then Krona sees the babies and he's like, these babies, they will have their revenge.
And they will become great warriors. And they will take vengeance.
But then the mom goes, but
they are girl children.
They are girl children.
They are girl children. And they will go on to say girl children like a dozen times in this movie.
Girl children, girl children, girl children.
But I love that Krona's reaction to that. He's like, girl children. Ah, the sport you gods have with us mortals.
Girl children. Ah, the sport you gods have with us mortals.
It's so good. But regardless of them being girls, he still goes, well, that's fine. I'm going to give them my magic Krona powers. And he like touches them and they turn blue. And he's like, now they have my magic Krona powers. They will become super warriors, essentially. They have like superpowers, basically.
But never mind. Warriors shall you be, as I have said.
And then so they got to take the baby somewhere. And again, beautifully shot, Kyle. We get this awesome shot of like through inside this cabin and a storm is raging outside and the lightning and there's like little fires and stuff. So it's really dark and pools of light, but then the lightning strikes and the lightning comes through the slats of the building and like lights the character that we're seeing like it's super cool. But anyways, this is like this family. This is Uncle Owen and Aunt Peru.
Yeah, exactly what I was gonna go with.
This is yes. This is who they're dropping the babies off with. And I love my favorite thing in this scene, which I don't know if you noticed this line, is Krona shows up and is like, "Here, you got to take these babies." And the mom, the woman goes, "That's fine. I got plenty of milk in these babies."
I know, that's great.
Just care for these girl children, as if they were your own.
Of course. You see, I'm so full. I can nurse 3 as well as 1.
Now, is Krona worshipped as like a deity?
I think so. I think he's like a god. I think this is supposed to take place roughly around like Roman times.
Yeah, kind of like when the Germanic
tribes and like the invasion of, because there's like the barbarians and stuff, and they talk about like Agni. I think they mention Roman gods occasionally, so I think it's supposed to be during that. I don't know if it's supposed to be any like actual historical stuff, but there are some stuff that make it feel vaguely like, the like Germanic invasions of Rome and stuff like that time period.
I am Baldur of Amart. Never in all my 56 battles have I seen such skill. You must have learned from a master.
Historically, it's not remotely like they don't give a shit about that at all.
This is sword and board sorcery shit.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, she's like, look at my big milkers. Of course, I can easily nurse 3 babies, not a problem.
Yeah. You see, I'm so full. I can nurse 3 as well as 1.
Good.
So they take the babies. Then we cut and we jump forward in time. And the movie doesn't tell us because it respects its audience, Kyle, and it doesn't tell us like 10, 20 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
It just jumps forward in time. And we're at this temple. And this is where we're introduced to Badassia or whatever her name is, the evil sorceress lady. She's the only person who could maybe be called a sorceress. I don't think she does any magic, but she's dressed like a sorceress kind of a little bit.
She's the one who's making like evil contract deals or whatever with like powerful spirits.
Right, yeah. And she is the one who brings Trigon back. So she says like the house is in, or the moon is in the house of the jaguar or some shit like that or whatever.
The moon is in the house of the dragon, and the master will be among us once again.
There's a lot of prophecy speaking.
Yeah, but it all looks cool. They got this big stone wheel like calendar thing that the moon like shines and hits, and it lets them know when it is. So they know it's time to bring back Trigon. So they do something, and Trigon comes back. He has arrived. Also, she has a little monkey man pet friend guy.
His costume's so bad.
It's a little man in a monkey costume, like, It's great. But his cult brings him back. She greets him. She's like, "Your loyal servants greet you." And then she takes her thing off and is like, "Also, so do my boobs. Here, my boobs."
Yep.
Master, your loyal servants greet you.
But he walks right past her and she seems very disappointed by that. She's like, "But my boobs." But no, he's like, "You got to go find the kids. You got to go find
the 2 who are 1.
The 2 who are 1." Well, because right. That was the other thing that Krona said at the beginning. There are now 2 who are 1.
My first command, the most important, find the 2 who are 1.
Which will be important throughout the film, but especially at the end, because this movie, spoilers, is all a setup for a bad joke. That's all this whole movie is, which is great. So he sends his people out to go get the girls, and we cut, and the girls are adults now, and they are grown women, and we cut in on them skinny dipping in a pond, swimming around naked, because of course we do, and we watched them swim around naked for a while, and then a satyr shows up. Right?
Yes, he's a satyr. But he's almost like feral?
What sort of creature is that? I don't know. He seems friendly, though.
He does not speak.
He seems feral.
Yes, but he can comprehend at least a little bit because he communicates like with sign language later in the movie.
Like, he has a pan flute and everything.
Yeah.
He's like the most generic satyr possible.
Yeah, he really is. And his makeup's not the greatest. He's maybe my least favorite part of the movie, mainly because his makeup I thought was just not as good as some of the other stuff in the movie. But he's like spying on them swimming. And I love they immediately see him and they're like, "What's he doing? What's that horn he has between his legs?"
What's that? Which he carries there, hanging between his legs? I don't know. Some kind of horn? A weapon, then? But how would he use such a weapon? I don't know, and I'm not going to wait to find out.
What is that big? So we find out that they don't know what dicks are.
Yes.
They don't know what a boy or a girl is.
Yes.
Because their parents specifically raised them as boys because they needed to not be, like, they knew that
they couldn't arouse suspicion.
Yes. And so if they raised them as boys, then they wouldn't they wouldn't arouse as much suspicion from Tragon's forces or whatever.
Yeah, I also think they should have been raised separately.
You would think that maybe that would have been a good idea.
Quite literally
just literally do the Star Wars thing, but sure, whatever. But so they were raised as boys, so they don't understand that they're girls, which will be important later, kind of. But I just love that line. They're like, "What is that horn between his legs?" And then it just cuts up to them. They're like, "I don't know. Let's go see." And they go up on the beach, and then they just punch him in the face a bunch.
Yep.
Which I don't know why, but that moment really worked for me immediately. They're like, I don't know, what is that? What's that thing between his legs? I don't know. It seems like an asshole. Punch him in the face. It's great. And then, so he runs off, and they're like, well, he might go get reinforcements. Let's get out of here. And then they run back to town, or they got to start running back to town. And I will say, as good as a lot of the wardrobe and costumes are, their
initial costumes
are terrible. They're awful. They're like caveman, like goat herder outfits or whatever they are. They're ridiculous. They're so bad. Meanwhile, though, a bunch of soldiers show up at their adoptive parents' like farm or homestead or whatever, and kill her parents and rape and kill her sister. Maybe
bunch of stormtroopers show up.
Yeah, this is literally the scene where they burn Luke's the moisture farm or whatever.
You speak nonsense, Kshatriya.
No, they are here, the two maidens. You've been hiding them.
But I love that the old man, the guy who's like their adoptive dad, grabs like some ye olde nunchucks. What are those? I don't know what those are. He literally grabs like Renaissance nunchucks. I don't know what's going on. And he's just like hitting people with them. But he tries to fight back for a bit, but he can't. He ends up getting absolutely obliterated, gets shot with a bunch of arrows or whatever. But then the girls show up. Their family's dead at this point, but the girls show up and come running in, and we get this slow-mo shot of them running, and they get superimposed with like the blue power-up, like and they like come running in, the superheroes, and they just start beating the shit out of everybody. With these sticks that they have. I also love that initially the evil sergeant, like the evil captain guy, who's like the second in command military guy. I can't remember what his name is, like Ragnarok or something. It's not that.
Yeah, it's something.
Kragnan or something. I don't know, whatever. But I love that initially he's like, those are the two who are as one. Don't harm them.
Take them, men! In a slow death! To any man who harms them!
And then after like 3 seconds of them like fighting, he goes, kill them! Fucking kill them!
Kill them!
Immediately just goes to kill them. It's so good. But they're like catching arrows out of midair and shit. Because again, they have superpowers. Yeah. And then she shoots one of them with a bow and arrow as he's riding away with just the worst bow and arrow form I have ever. She's holding it like up at her head. It's impossible.
Maybe for like a longbow, because I know like a lot of them.
Well, that's how you would draw, but then when you're holding it, it still comes down. She's holding it like
that's
up.
It
makes no sense. It looks terrible.
Oh there, lad. I salute you.
Anyway, so they beat up a bunch of people, and then just randomly out of the woods stumbles a Viking, who is maybe my favorite character in the movie, Baldar.
Yes.
I am Baldur of Amorg. Never in all my 56 battles have I seen such skill. You must have learned from a master.
Baldar, the dwarf Viking, or whatever the fuck he is.
Which he's not really short. He's not really that short.
Well, and I don't think they say he's a dwarf. I think they say he's a Viking, but he's not a dwarf. I just called him.
He kind of
looks like a dwarf.
Canonically correct looking like Thor.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say he reminded me of Hagar the Horrible.
Yeah,
the from the comics. It was a little bit of what he looked like. But anyways, he shows up and he's like, "Wow, you lads are good at fighting." And this will be the beginning of what this movie does, at least for like the first like 20 minutes here, where everybody interacting with these very clearly like buxom women are like, "You boys." And again, it's not like they're concealing, like their hair is covered a little bit.
A little bit. They
But
have ridiculous fur hats on.
yeah, but it's not like they're you can tell. Like, you can tell they are Playboy playmates, and you can tell. And they're just like, all right, lads, let's go. It's like, okay, I guess if you can't see long hair, they must be dudes or whatever. But as they're hanging out, Krona shows up again.
Mira, Mara. Where did you come from?
Who are you?
It was I who gave you your fighting skills.
You gave us?
Yes.
Who his timing is terrible. He just shows up too late every single time.
And now he's basically looking like old Moses.
Yes. Yeah, I guess the idea is he is like kind of old and getting towards the end of his god life or whatever. Because he shows up and basically gives them their quest. He's like, here, I am the person giving you your mission. Go kill Tragon, avenge your parents. I'm going to go walk into a fire bite.
We will do it, Master. We will find this Tragon and kill him.
You will face great danger.
We are not afraid.
Because spoilers, he literally just goes and walks into a fire and it's like, I'm done. Anyway, so he gives them their mission, walks into fire. Then we cut, and now we're in a city. They gotta go on their mission, and we're introduced to like this pleasure house. We get this big sweeping panning camera move through this pleasure house, which is like just women dancing everywhere.
People doing women doing like backflips and
backflips, and people are gambling. I loved it. This sets a lot of fun. Did you notice the big fans? They had rugs strung up in the air, swinging back and forth to act as fans.
Nice.
Like it's a fun set.
I will say, Brian, have fun censoring half of this.
Yeah, that's the main thing. The second half of the movie actually doesn't have much nudity in it. This part in particular, just boobs and ass everywhere.
Well, barbarian, will you call the serpents again?
I will. Serpent.
But so they get to this pleasure house, or we're introduced to this pleasure house, and there's this guy who is playing dice, and we'll find out his name is Elric later.
Yes.
He is the other member of our party, or will be. Oh, Pando was also, the satyr was with the Viking.
Yes.
They're friends.
Yes.
Whatever. So now we have a ragtag group. Elric, who is also a barbarian, is cheating at dice, and he starts a big fight because he's cheating at dice. Like, everybody starts to try to beat him up. But then they arrive, and Baldar, the Viking, is friends with Elric. He's like, Elric!
Baldar, you here?
And thank Modin for it.
And in the middle of the fight, they like reunite, and they're like beating the shit out of everybody. It's classic getting the gang together stuff, and I think it works pretty fun. And so they're able to they fight all these guys, and that one guy's huge. I don't know, that one guy who starts the fight with Elric in the pleasure house is like a giant man. I don't know what.
Andre
yeah,
Giant.
Yeah, he is huge. So they win the fight or whatever. They're able to get away. And
well, they bring up this point because Elric has to get his what he put his bet on, which was like his heirloom sword or something like that.
Oh.
Because he is a prince of a foreign land.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, he has an heirloom sword, a special sword. Yes, and he is a prince, and that'll be important later.
You pawned your sword, the son of King Brandwin, to play dice?
But I won, Baldar. I won.
They then go to a safe house to hang out for a little bit. And as they're in the safe house, they need to change clothes, Kyle. And so Mira, and I don't think I've mentioned their names, Mira and Mara are our two main characters. And they get undressed, and Baldar is like, wait a second. Wait a second. You guys, and Elric, they're like, you guys, what the fuck? You're not dudes.
Know the taste of strange wines, the lips of exotic maidens.
The perfect disguise.
But you're girls.
Girls? What do you mean?
And they're like, what? And they're like, you're not dudes. And they're like,
yeah,
oh,
we are.
this.
No, they were like, yes, we are. What's the difference?
Yeah, they don't. So apparently their parents, never explained, not only raised them as boys, never even explained that there is such a thing as boys and girls.
Yes.
They're like, ah. And so this is the only thing where this will matter, though, is this scene. And then after this, they're just like, oh, I guess we're girls. And that's like,
I mean, you're not boys.
We're not? Not boys? Are you sure?
Elric and Baldar go to do something, and they're like, don't go anywhere. But then the girl who was Elric's like partner in crime for his gambling con that he was running, because he was using like loaded dice or whatever, and she was like helping him with the loaded dice. He follows him, overhears all of this, and then sneaks around and lures the girls out.
In the dumbest way.
Yeah, she's just like, Elric said to come.
You must come. Erlich has been taken by Tragon.
Tragon. We'll come.
Yeah, Elric got captured, come on. And they're like, okay. And they come running out. And she just leads them into a whole bunch of soldiers to capture them, right? Like,
yeah, immediately. It was very dumb.
Yeah. But lures them out and capture. And so they get captured like immediately. And then meanwhile, Elric and Baldar are like at the blacksmith, like getting their weapons or whatever. And they're talking about Baldar or Elric's sword, which is a super special steel or whatever. He's like, this is iron, this is garbage. But he's like, no, it's special iron. It can cut through anything.
Yeah.
It's too soft to hold an edge.
It's a new method. They put it in coals, hammer it out over and over, then plunge it white hot into cold water. I will show you. Give me that.
Which we'll see later in the movie. But as they're getting their weapons or whatever, Pando runs up and is like freaking out, and he has to mime that the girls got kidnapped, and so he does the hourglass figure thing, and he's like, the girls, they got kidnapped, and they're like, oh, okay. And I love that immediately I love Baldar in this movie. He's just immediately like completely down to help them on their he's like, they are my charge, I will help them get vengeance, it is my only mission in life now.
Which I guess he was also quested with that from
Crona
yeah. Well, so
they're in trouble. I'm sworn to help them. Are you with me, boy?
So they capture him, they have him in the center of town or whatever, and they have him like tied to these like big logs or whatever, and they have to test to see which one's the firstborn.
Their method of testing is ridiculous.
Yes. They put some chemical, Melissa or whatever her name is, Badassia or whatever, gives them some special vial of stuff. And also the shot revealing her in her little like thing that they carry her in is super cool. She's like all in like green, and she's in this purple thing, and they open it and she's like lounging there. It's super awesome. But she gives them this thing, and she's like, put it in the fire, and then they stick Mira's face
onto the coals?
Into the coals. And when they pull her up, they wipe the ash away, and she's not burned, and they're like, that means she's the firstborn.
What?
Fire knows the firstborn. Agni has revealed the truth.
Okay, sure, right on, I guess.
If she floats, she's a witch.
Exactly. I was like, all right, I guess that is. I guess that's how you do that. But now, so they now know that, or Mara, I think, is the firstborn. But just in time, right as they're about to like take her away or whatever, they do put a collar on her. But after they put the collar on her, our heroes show up to save the day. We get a big fight scene. They like break them out. They're like using the poles that they're tied to like beat people up with and shit. It's a lot of fun. Look, it's a fun movie. I don't know what to tell you. So they're all able to escape, but they got to escape into the Forbidden Forest.
Yes.
The fire swamp, which, again, in a lesser movie, that moment is complete ass. Where we reveal the fire swamp is we just see some boring trees or whatever. They did location scouting and shit here, Kyle, because they're like, we must go into the Forbidden Forest. And the camera swings around, and we get a shot down this super cool lane of trees that are all like arcing over this like rounded path.
Wait, that's the Forbidden Forest. No one ever comes out of there alive.
Good. Maybe the Kshatriyas will be afraid to follow us.
It looks like something out of like Lord of the Rings, like at the beginning, like when they're like
Oh, when they're
like
trying to Rivendell?
Yeah, and like the shots of like the wraiths like riding down the path or whatever. Yeah. But it's like this super, and then there's like in the distance, it's just all fog. Like they pumped a bunch of fog in and we're at the end of this path. It's super cool. And like light is coming into. Look,
it's art.
I'm not saying it's art, but I actually no, it is.
It's fine. Yeah,
it is. But I think the bigger thing is just like that kind of like. You just don't expect
that quality doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen with garbage movies like this.
Everybody thinks there's a simpler solution.
Well, and it's just not even. Yeah, I think that part of it is like there are other like cheaper, easier ways to do it. But man, it is like again, can you imagine like even an equivalent of this movie, like the garbage, like Camp Blood 8 or something, which is like a sexploitation schlocky, like let's make a movie that's mostly about boobs and like we'll strap some sort of plot around it. Who cares what it is really?
It feels like this was a recycled plot that they were like, well, we can do this if we roll it in with these Playmate models.
Right, exactly. But again, if you have that version of that movie today, it's Camp Blood 8.
Yeah.
This movie, this version in 1982, it's prettier than like half the movies that come. It's crazy.
There was something about quality back then that is just lost in modern day.
I think what it is, and I think we've talked about this before, I think really what it boils down to is that in order to make a movie back then, it was pretty much you had to know what you were doing. Like
it was a insignificant investment.
Yeah, it was just too expensive for a normal person to go like grab a camera and make a movie. You just couldn't really feasibly do it. Whereas now you can get a camcorder and a laptop and you can make a movie.
Keep in mind, you could have movies cheaply made back then, but they were going to end up like Ed Wood.
Right. Right, and so they did exist. They were just way more rare. Whereas now everybody can buy a cheap. You can shoot it on your cell phone or whatever, and you can edit it on free software on your laptop. So it's like super easy to make a movie. So yeah,
if you're going to go into these locations, if you're going to have multiple actors and stuff like that, if you need costumes, that is an investment that you had to shop this around to a bunch of different producers, secure that money. The producers and stuff are going to be like, okay, you need to show me what you're doing on your end to ensure my investment here.
Right.
There's a lot of ass covering in these old films.
Yeah,
which is why there's better quality.
Why they end up sometimes looking like real, actual, awesome movies, even if the content itself is not all that great. So they escape into the Forbidden Forest and then are immediately attacked by monkeys throwing laughing gas fruit bombs.
I was like,
I don't know. What's that sweet smell? It's coming from those fruits. It makes me feel funny.
Why is everybody laughing their ass? Oh, they're all. It's all like loopy gas.
Yeah, they threw like these exploding fruit at them that releases laughing gas, and so they're like the monkeys come down and start like trying to grab them all, and they're like trying to fight them off while like laughing hysterically, which is kind of fun. But again, little details. Did you notice in the back of the shot, they're like sitting around like a little pond? Do you notice they like threw dry ice into the pond so that it was like bubbling and like...
No, I didn't notice that. That's great.
In the background, there's like the pond they're next to. They clearly threw dry ice or something in it. There's like bubbles and like fog coming off on the surface of the pond. It's like little things like that, man. Come on.
Mara, Mira, do you know where babies come from?
They get captured by the monkeys. But I only get 2 of them because I shoot one of the monkeys in the ass with an arrow and he drops the other sister. But they are able to get Mara and Ehrlich and take them to the castle. So they take them, they kidnap them, take them to the castle. Mara, he's like, Tragon's like, you're my daughter. Well, they have a big confrontation, and this is the Star Wars thing where she's like, you killed my mother. And they're like, is that what they told you? No,
I am your father.
You! Tragon! You murdered my mother!
Is that what these barbarian dogs have told you?
You deny it?
Listen, my child. I am your father.
My father?
Exactly. And she's like, what? Anyway, so they tells her, explains that he's her dad, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you're going to be a princess. You're where you belong. And she's like, look, just don't kill Ehrlich. I like him. Don't fuck with him. And they're like, okay. But then they find out that he was cheating at dice, and they're like, nah, he's got to die.
I see. Well done, Krakanon. Barbarian, know that the penalty for cheating in the games is death by impalement.
They see his fake dice that he was using to cheat with, and they're like, no, gotta die.
Yep.
Obviously, they were just coming up with an excuse to kill him. But so they take him out to kill him, and this scene is incredible, Kyle. The execution method that they come up with.
It's great. They're ripping his that he's sliding down a pole.
So
right?
they have the movie does I will say on the negative of the movie does a bad job of showing what's happening here.
Because I didn't quite understand this.
So what they did is they have a platform and there's this giant wood pillar, like a telephone pole thick, like wood pillar that they are slathering up with like grease or whatever, covering it in grease and lube or I don't know, something like that, fat or something. And then underneath it, which again the movie does not do a great job of showing this, they have a spike.
Oh!
So the pole is like here and like 8 inches out from the pole. If this is like the pole, they have a spike, a wooden spike like this.
Going right up
and then they make him wrap his arms and legs around the pole and so that he will slowly slide down and impale himself ass first on the spike. And he's like, so he's slowly sliding down, and he's like, and they're like talking through it, and he explains during this scene that he is a prince and has royal blood in him from blah 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 whatever, and somehow they realize that this would be a good thing for him to mate with Mara before the ceremony where they sacrifice her. Because then they will have the blood of the first king in her or something.
Shit. I don't know.
Who knows?
He's of the ancient blood of Armagh.
If it is true, it would make the sacrifice perfect.
Yes, and the maiden's body then could carry the seed of one of the noble ancient blood.
But anyways, point being, they're like, okay, don't kill him. So they're able to stop him right before his ass slides onto the spike. That scene was cracking me up, dude. Also, the shape of the pillar and everything going on there felt very intentional. But anyway, I'll leave that up to you all to decide at home if there was any symbolism there or not.
Yes. Have him released, Krakenon. Keep the stake in place till after the sacrifice.
They then take them inside and they're like, all right, well then now that we got to have him mate with her first. So they get them all liquored up on Soma.
Soma, nectar of the gods.
Soma's from, it's from multiple things, but it's from, like not 1984, but it's from some old like sci-fi novel. I'm pretty sure Brave New World or something like that. I swear Soma was original. It's the nectar of the gods drug. Is what they say. Yeah. And I swear because normally
Soma's been around for a very long time because it is it's something in Final Fantasy games, but it's like a magic enhancer.
Yeah.
And so I imagine it's like something to help with mental acuity.
Well, in this one it's like a bliss. It's like in this and which is what I think it is in other properties. There's also a video game called Soma, but I swear it was in like a Ray Bradbury novel or something. Point being that I think in those what it does is essentially makes you very placid and like euphoric and like so you'll just do whatever somebody tells you to, which is how it works in this. They take the Soma, they drink it. Which did you notice too that they have like green light in the cups? I was trying to figure out like because it's like 1982. I was like I wonder what they're using because it looked like the light was literally coming out of the cup. And it's not a very big cup, so I was wondering what they were using for that light source. I was like, is there like just a glow stick in there or something? Like what? I don't know how they were doing it, but anyways,
here drink some radon.
yeah, it's just a bunch. It's just a cup full of plutonium. It's like, but anyway, so they get them all like Ehrlich and Mara all liquored up on Soma, and then they're like, now fuck, now go have sex.
Go to your chambers. Your friend will come to you soon. He is well, as you asked.
Ehrlich, thank you, Father.
But before that, Delicia comes in and she's talking to Ehrlich and she's like, by the way, I fucking hate this Tragon guy. After you fuck her and we kill her, you should become the king or whatever, not this Tragon guy. Yes. And he's like, oh, okay.
I want a man, a real man beside me who can wrest the great power from Tragon and dispose of him.
But I actually liked this a lot because after that scene happens, Tragon comes out from like somewhere else in the room and he's like, that was very convincing. And she's like, yeah. And we as an audience do not know if she was lying or telling the truth in that scene.
Don't be so modest. You were very persuasive. I might have believed you myself.
The important thing is that he will do as we wish.
Which I thought was pretty...
Yeah, but were they just fucking with the guy then?
No, so I think the idea is that he told her to tell him that, like, hey, you got to convince him to go through with this.
Yeah.
And so she sells him this line of like, hey, you can become once we do this.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
and Tragon is saying like, but did you actually mean that?
Yeah.
And because that's how we as an audience, you're like, maybe she is like actually gonna, and we don't know because it never gets resolved because he just kills her. But
immediately.
Yeah. But I thought that like tension was fun of like maybe she has some ulterior motives going on and it just kind of never gets resolved. I thought was actually kind of interesting.
I thought the soldiers might have treated you unkindly.
Well, for a while there was a rather sharp dispute.
So this gets to maybe the best scene in the movie, or one of the best scenes in the movie, depending on who you ask, at least. Which is that they then Ehrlich goes in to Mara and they like have a conversation. And also, by the way, because they don't understand sex or anything, I love he comes up to her and he's like, I have to tell you something. And she's like,
has it to do with this feeling I get in my loins when I touch you?
Great, classic stuff. Classic Born Yesterday stuff. And then also he has to expose just one breast for the camera. He's like, here, let's begin our lovemaking. Let me pull just one shoulder off so a boob comes out. And then they start having sex. And we cut to Mira sleeping out in the wilderness with Baldar and Pando.
Yes.
And all of a sudden,
she starts writhing in ecstasy.
She starts...
Child, what is it? A snake? What do you see?
I don't know. I feel kind of strange.
And she doesn't realize what's going on either. And Baldar's like, are you in pain? What's wrong? And she's like, it's not pain.
Oh.
Where is the pain, child?
It doesn't hurt. I feel so hot.
And they just sit there and it goes on
forever.
Kyle.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's like 5 straight minutes of her writhing around moaning in hay on the ground as they all just stand there and like watch like, okay, I don't know what to do.
It must be Ehrlich.
And then Baldar's watching and she like climaxes and he goes, yeah, that's Ehrlich.
Yes, that would be Ehrlich.
Cause he like figures out that she must be feeling what Mara is experiencing. Oh, I bet Mara is having sex with Ehrlich. And then after she comes, he's like, oh yeah, that's my boy. It's so funny, dude. It's so funny.
Oh god.
Oh no, not again.
Now we gotta get to the big climax of the movie. So Baldar and Mira and them walk up to confront them at the gates of the castle or whatever, and Mara and Ehrlich walk out in their like robes, clearly like under the influence of Selma.
Enthralled, yeah.
And I love Baldar's line here, which there are actually quite a few of these lines, which I think are just incredible, where he yells, "By the fangs of Grugner, they are bewitched!"
By the fangs of Grugner, they are bewitched.
But anyway, Baldar decides he needs to attack, so he just gets his sword out and starts swinging it willy-nilly for no reason, and they just shoot him in the arm with an arrow.
Never!
Like immediately.
Yeah.
And then Tragon comes down and confronts them, and it's like, fuck you guys, green electricity. Except there's no sound effect, which there should be.
There
it's
should
just
be.
Like silence.
There needs to be like a...
Yeah, something, but he just goes, and nothing, there's no sound. It does something where it like makes the ground collapse, and they
they
fall
sink
through
in.
a hole. Yeah, they fall through a hole in the ground, and end up in this like pit underground. They call it like a burial pit or something like that. But they aren't sure. The other people aren't sure if they're dead or not or whatever. The monkey sees this. The monkey guy sees this and is mad at Tragon for seemingly killing them because whatever her name is, Medacia or whatever, promised the monkey guy that after this all went down, he could keep Mira as like a sex slave. And so he's super pissed that they killed Mira.
What the hell?
He was promised the other maiden, Master. He is angry.
Filthy beast.
So he goes up to Delicia or whatever the fuck her name is. After this all happens, he looks at her like, "What the fuck? You just killed my sex slave." And Delicia goes, just shrugs at him. I don't know why it's so funny. But it sets up a classic thing, which is that the monkey's like, well, then fuck this. I'm helping the good guys.
Yeah.
And he fucks up. I guess he gets the sword somewhere, and he fucks off with it. So, as I said, the other two fell in a burial pit. And we get this great scene where he has the arrow in his arm, and she gets it out of him, but she does it, like, I think kind of the right way.
It pushes it through.
Yeah, where he's like, it's barbed. So she pushes it all the way through, then breaks it off and pulls it out. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And the tomb looks awesome.
Yes.
It's this big, awesome, like comparing this to like even another movie that had quite a high budget, like kind of cool special effects, the fucking the Mummy movie from a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Like the tombs and like the underground and that looked awful because it was like the weird like
clearly it was
walls that were made
set,
out of like rubber mats or whatever the fuck that were like cork board or something. This looks like an actual cave, and it's got all these like old skeletons and shit like embedded in the walls. It all looks, and there's
like
light.
catacombs.
Yeah, like catacombs. It actually looks really fucking cool. So they're trying to get out of there, and they're going. And at one point they stop, and Mira sits down. He's like, "Wait for me here." And she sits down right in front of a skeleton, and
that puts its hand around her.
That was very clearly in the scene before that breathing.
Oh yeah,
you can see it on the wall going. Trying to hold still. But yes, then it just like reaches down and grabs her. Oh, meanwhile, Pando finds some maidens frolicking in a field and gives them the sword that he... I don't know who those women are or what their relationship to anything is, but he shows up and he's like, "Hey, maidens, I got this sword." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then he goes and talks to the villagers, I guess, and somehow like raises an army in like 30 seconds.
Damn, that was quick.
He's like, "Guys, come with me." And they're like, "Okay." And they like show up with goats and shit and like come rolling in. Oh, and also those scenes where he raises that army, very clearly second unit shot.
Yeah.
Did you notice? Because everything in this movie, all the night scenes, gloriously lit. Got lots of cool like big lights shining through trees and fog and like lots of layered lights and colors and stuff. And then those scenes with him, there's not it's just him in the dark like running around. You can't see shit. You can't see anything.
Nice.
They clearly shot that in like an hour one night because they were running out of time. Fucking Tragon starts the ceremony up on the thing, and that starts waking up all the mummies in the tomb with them.
They can't be real.
So was this the plan? He just raises an army of the undead?
I don't know. I don't think so. I thought the point was like he wanted power himself, but I guess he also gets the power to raise the dead then.
Yeah.
Anyways, he starts bringing all these dead people back to life, so they have to start fighting all these mummies in the tombs, which is great. I love a good army of like undead monsters that our heroes have to fight. We get an arm lopped off, we get a head lopped off. It's not, as good as it could be, but it's some fun stuff. And then as they're getting overwhelmed in the catacombs by these mummies, and then she has this memory, Mira does, of this word that Krona told her at the beginning of the movie, which is Vital.
When all seems lost, use the name Vital.
Vital. Vital.
Which is a it's like a password or a passphrase, some sort of magic word.
Some sort of magic phrase. She says Vital, like as because it's like the moment of like they look like they're about to kill Mara up on the tomb or up on the altar or whatever. They're getting grabbed by mummies and stuff, and she's like Vital. And when she says this, the fucking sky opens up, Kyle, and a goddamn lion bat god monster thing descends from the heavens.
What the hell?
Vital! Vital!
And starts shooting lightning, and it's incredible. I have no idea what the fuck that thing was supposed to be, but that is Vital. It is this giant lion bat thing. It's amazing. I think it's super cool. Anyway, so then he this like this moment breaks the thrall on Mara or whatever, and Elric.
And now they're both like,
they're like, oh, we gotta get out of here. Yeah. And so he's like, well, fuck that. I can sacrifice a different person for my power. And so he just turns and stabs Delicia or whatever her name is in the stomach and kills her. It's like, okay.
Why did that work for anyone? Why did you have to like find these two people? Why couldn't you just sacrifice, I don't know, a slave or something?
I don't know. Well, he had all those virgins he was going to sacrifice. We see him at the beginning.
Yeah, they had like 3 of them.
Not 3. They walk out of line of like 20 of them.
But he's like, bring in the sacrificial virgins.
Bring the sacrificial virgins.
And they're all just standing there like, oh. And then that's the other thing. After he brings all the mummies up, he's like, rise, rise.
Arise, my warriors! Arise!
And they start coming out of the ground. And they immediately run over and like grab all the virgins. And Baldar turns to Pando or Elric or something and is like,
been buried 1,000 years, you know?
But I think it's an actual line where he says, bring out the sacrificial virgins.
Yes, no, it is 100% a line. Bring out the sacrificial virgins. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Bring the sacrificial virgins.
But again, more cool shots. We get this really cool shot of Tragon, like when he's summoning the dead guys. It's like this close up with his red hood, and then there's like this green light, like on it. It looks really cool. Then that ends up summoning Caligara, who's like the evil god or whatever, who is just like a head with like a half serpent or I don't know what's going on there.
Now, Caligara!
But the other one, the Vital or whatever, is this giant winged lion bat thing, and then Caligara is just a head floating in the sky. But they're floating next to each other.
That's some wild shit.
And they start battling, and Caligara shoots lightning, or no, the lion shoots lightning at Caligara and blows the head off. It's so fucking awesome.
What?
It's so awesome. I love it so much. Then we get the final showdown. Elric fights the general guy, Krakenau or whatever his name is, and just immediately slices through his shield with his sword because he has the special steel sword or whatever.
Cut through anything.
Yeah.
Don't be so.
So he cuts through the shield and cuts through his sword and then cuts his arm off, and he's like, fuck, and dies. Then he confronts Tragon. It's the big showdown, but then Tragon turns his sword into a snake. Or illusion, makes the illusion of it turning into a snake because he's like an illusion.
But now he's disarmed Elric. He's about ready to strike him down with, I don't know.
He's about to do something or whatever, and then he just gets shot in the back.
Oh, 2 arrows.
2 arrows. And then they turn around and it's Mara and Mira with their bows like, haha, fuck you. And that is maybe the biggest disappointment of this movie, is that I think this movie has so many great moments and so much great buildup and so much lore building and world building and stuff. But then the climax, the big, it's just nothing.
Some generic killing.
It's just like he gets 2 arrows in the back. There's not even like a big music swell, or it's just like it's so anticlimactic. Like,
I honestly thought you could do a thing where the evil goddess or god or whatever, like it's getting sucked back into the realm it came from, and Trigon gets he gets sucked back in with it. That would make sense.
Some shit like that would
because
be cool.
like he's like imbued with the power of that god. It would make sense for it to suck him in with it.
That would be fantastic.
We didn't get that though.
No. Yeah. Oh, and you know what would be great? Some symbolism stuff. Maybe maybe he put another slave collar on Mara, like when they put her under the thrall with the drug thing, and as he's getting sucked away, he like grabs her collar, and so she like pulls it off and like breaks it, and that's what like release, and then he gets sucked in. You know what I mean? So she's like literally like unshackling herself from him, and that's the moment. I think that could work. Whatever. Point being,
what are you trying to say, Brian? Can you say it more bluntly?
I'm just saying, I think it could have been great if they had some symbolism in the movie at the end here. Really, I just wanted the climax to be more interesting. It's just he just gets shot in the back and he's just dead, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's the end.
It's like shooting the villain and being like, huh. It's like it's that equivalent. It's like a Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, I guess he's dead. All right, fine.
My children.
But then the final moment of the movie, and the entire movie, the entire reason this movie exists, Kyle, we get to the end, and Baldar is like down at the bottom of the steps, and Elric comes walking out of the temple with Mara on one arm and Mira on the other arm, and walks out, and Baldar looks at him and goes, "Isn't one enough for you?" And Elric turns and goes,
"Didn't you know?
Isn't one enough for you?"
You forget, Baldar. These two are one.
The whole movie was a threesome joke, Kyle. The whole premise of the movie, the whole setup, all of it was just so that the final moment of the movie could be Elric being like, "I'm a fuck 2 girls." Into the movie. It's fantastic. I think it's good bad in my opinion. It's also
got a lot of good stuff.
Yes, I think it also borders on good. It borders on good at times. It's definitely, there's too much garbage, and the climax is way too much of a letdown to be good. But there's a lot of really good artistry on display in this movie. Again, I think a lot of the cinematography is really good. I think a lot of the like wardrobe and sets and stuff are really cool and good. The fight scenes are like not great, but they're not terrible either. They're just like mediocre. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's definitely good bad.
It definitely has a lot more quality than the premise of the movie would let on.
Yes, absolutely. That is 100% true. That's going to do it for this episode. As always, you can do us a giant favor by going to patreon.com/GBorBB, support us there, get access to bonus content and all that kind of good stuff. We're running out of time. Sorry, I got to rush through this. I have TeePublic, all the links in the description. Buy merch. I have a podcast called This Film Was It. We're talking about movies that are based on books. When this episode's out of our studio, this episode will probably still have been a series of unfortunate events. I don't know. We may have been to the end of it. Or Bridget Jones' Diary. That would be the other. What a fun movie for that to end up being after all that. Bridget Jones. Yeah, that could be the other thing, depending on when this episode comes out. So look out for that. That's going to do it for this episode. As always, keep watching movies.
Especially Sorceress, or whatever the hell generic title of this film needed to be.
The Barbarian Women.
Yes.
Boobs, the movie.
It's art.